Good day to you, dear viewer, and welcome back to the Star Space Academy. Today we'll be discussing a rare combination of topics: compound interest and how it is used in science fiction. We will be looking at two science fiction universes that cover compound interest for space soldiers. In Ender's Game and its sequel, Speaker for the Dead, the protagonists choose to live for thousands of years by traveling at relativistic speeds. This allows them to view thousands of years of human history within their own lifetime. In the Forever War, Private Mandela is drafted into a futuristic military and sent to fight an unknown alien enemy. Due to traveling at relativistic speeds, each mission involves him traveling further and returning home decades and even centuries later to an unrecognizable Earth, and sometimes not even Earth. Both Orson Scott Card and Joe Haldeman take into account that beginning with even a modest start, their protagonists will become incomprehensibly wealthy due to the lifetimes of compound interest they accrue. The question is, just how rich did they become due to this compound interest, and the ability for them to live many lifetimes? While not necessarily a tactic that we 21st century Earthlings can take with our investments, these books are some of the only ones in the science fiction genre that address these two principles together. This is made possible by physical effects when traveling near the speed of light, or the universal speed limit of 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. Known today as time dilation, a person traveling at such a speed could return home decades, centuries, or even more after they left, despite only being a few years older themselves. This effect was made famous by Albert Einstein in his theory of special relativity, and becomes increasingly drastic the closer you get to the speed of light. The difference in the two temporal reference frames is characterized by the Lorentz factor, named after the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Hendrik Lorentz, and is dependent only on the speed and the time at which that speed was maintained. In these books, the protagonists travel away from Earth for increasingly long lengths of time, from 10 years to 100 years to even 1,000 years. If you have read these books yourselves, you may note that I took some liberties with the exact time frames that are established in the books for the sake of making the math a little easier. To put these timescales into perspective, if you came back from your 10-year journey, you would have left right after the introduction of smartphones, and YouTube would have only been around for a few years. If you returned from your 100-year journey, you would have left right after the first airplane flight. If you returned from your 1,000-year journey, you would have left right after the Chinese invented gunpowder. You would have left a world where only 1 in 10 people could read, and returned to a world with flying machines, portals to other worlds, and other forms of magic prevalent everywhere, and a population 30 times larger than what you left. Why are such large timescales important? Well, today, you invest your money and let it grow passively. Without time dilation, people spend their entire lives adding to their portfolio. But with time dilation, you could return to lifetimes of compound interest in only a few years. You see, with compound interest, you invest, and after a period of time, normally measured in years, your investment has made a return. Great, free money that you didn't need to work for. And now you have even more money to invest. Another year goes by, and now you earn a return on your initial investment, but you also earn a return on the profit from your first year's investment. Then you reinvest the money you just made, plus your original. Then goes another year. And now you earn another return on your initial investment without any effort. You earn a return on the reinvested profit from year 1, and yet another return on the reinvested profit from year 2. At this point, you have so many stacks of cash, it is difficult to even display it. In order to determine how rich these soldiers are, we need to determine how much money is being inputted into their investments. In the case of Private Mandela, the government is kind enough to pay him every month, even if less than a day has passed in his subjective time frame. The military posts their pay rates online every year. We will assume that since Private Mandela is a conscript, he gets paid at the very bottom of the scale, or $1,733 per month. His pay would likely get adjusted for inflation, and his promotions throughout his career. Thus, our calculations will be a lower bound on his wealth. But we will see not taking his promotions and pay raises into account will not keep him from being immensely wealthy. Next, we will need to determine what kind of annual return our future soldiers will receive. If invested in government bonds, you will normally get around 2% per year. If you invested in something such as the S&P 500, you will average around 7%. This means you will double your money around every 10 years. Now we have enough information to determine the wealth of these protagonists. We estimate that they earn $1,733 per month, and since they have no expenses, being off-world and all, they will invest all of it, and with an average return of 7% per year. Let's examine the first return to Earth at 10 years for Private Mandela. If no investment was made, Private Mandela would earn $208,000 when he returned. Of course, that would be less adjusted for inflation. If he invested in government bonds, around 2% per year, he would have $227,000. That would almost cover inflation. However, if he invested in something like the S&P 500, he would have $287,000, significantly larger than his pay alone. And it is this investment strategy that we will continue to examine 1,000 years into the future. While 10 years of pay and investment isn't enough to get him into the 1%, it is still a considerable amount and quite good pay for 1 year. 100 years of pay and investment is easily enough to place him in the 0.1%. In fact, in the book Forever War, soldiers are sent to what can be put mildly as the most expensive resort ever conceived of when the soldiers get some rest and relaxation between missions. And it just so happens to be ran by the government. After all, someone has to pay for the 1,000 years of warfare, and it would be a bit weird for 90% of all wealth to be held by soldiers who may or may not return from the near suicidal missions they get sent on. However, projecting this 7% return out for 1,000 years, Private Mandela would hold a truly nonsensical amount of wealth. In fact, Orson Scott Card and Speaker of the Dead get around this by seemingly replacing Ender's wealth with an infinite symbol, and in Forever War, Joe Haldeman's society simply dispenses with currency altogether. And it's a good thing, too, because at this point, a single private would own around 125 million Earths, even if Earth did grow at the average rate for 1,000 years. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, infinite wealth. If you have a little bit of money, perhaps what you should do in these universes is buy a luxury ship, travel for a little while. By the time you return, you'll be even wealthier than when you left. Of course, when you get back, all of your crew will also have enough money to buy their own luxury ships, and on it would continue. Turns out Wally was pretty accurate in this regard. If you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and maybe check out some of the other videos on the channel. Have a good one. See you next week.